Do you hear that? The sound of addiction everywhere. You hear it. Little addicts running around, scurrying, looking, searching, going up and down, trying to find their next fix, just like an addict would. We are little addicts here. We're addicted to this experience, this sensory experience of fulfilling our senses with the next hit. And we get rewarded by feeling good about our participation in the sensory experience. And you hear it all around. Imagine these birds and these squirrels are little crackheads running around trying to get their next fix, doing everything they can to find, locate, or do little side missions in order to get their next fix, which is food. Everything in this human experience, in this animal experience, in this earthly experience is based off of our addiction to it. We need it to function. We need something outside of ourselves to feel good. When we eat, it rewards us by making us feel good. Now, sometimes if it's poisonous food, you may feel good for a moment and then you start to feel bad. But generally, when you eat, you are rewarded. You get that hit. And you must continue getting that hit and that hit. But the thing is, we have to be forced. We are forced into this addiction game because our body is addicted to surviving. And when you do things that are against surviving, your body punishes you. We're addicted on so many levels. Are we addicted to this life? Are we addicted like little meth heads running around trying to survive just like all these other animals? If you can listen, you'll hear the sound of meth heads going about their business, little crackheads running around trying to get their next fix. And we call these little things animals, but we don't think of it as an addiction. We think of it as survival. But it's an addiction because we need something outside of ourselves in order to function. In order to feel good, we get rewarded by fulfilling the survival mechanisms that keep us addicted. And it gets really deep. It gets very deep when you start looking at your life. There are so many things that keep us addicted by design, but also the human body and its nature is an addiction generating machine. You're forced to have to eat, drink, sleep, shelter, and all these other things. So you become addicted to the comforts. You become addicted to fulfilling those desires, the sin-sorry desires. Sensory kind of sounds like sin sorry. I'm sorry for sinning, but you have no other option but to sin when you're in a sensory experience that is run off of addictions. But the thing is, they want to gaslight you and make you think that addictions only come from drugs and alcohol and things like that. But substance abuse is when you stand under something and you give it power over your life. And in this life, we are always under the substance of survival mechanisms and outside experiences because they have infused that addiction process in the very nature of life here. And you can see it when you look at the birds, the squirrels, they're all running around like little crackheads trying to get their fix. But we don't look at it like this. We look at it as that's just survival. That's just them trying to feel their survival instincts. But when you look at them like little crackheads, you start to see, wow, this existence is forcing that addiction upon everything around it, to look outside of itself, to feel good, to be rewarded, to feel the insatiable desires that every being has that can never be filled for too long. You eat, you get that high, you get that fix, and then you gotta do it all over again. You gotta do it all over again every single day. And we, the most conscious animals here, are the most addicted because we come up with new ways to be addicted. We come up with beliefs to enforce our addictions, to make us feel good about these addictions. When you wake up, you're constantly bombarded with, I need something to fulfill my experience program. I'm sorry, I'm having a loss of words here, but I'm going to try to continue. I'm trying to make this as coherent as possible. So when you get into this experience, you become addicted because you need outside things and experiences in order to feel good. You can't just sit there in a room all day because you'll slowly decay and die. Oh, actually fast. You'll start to suffer immensely and get bored. So you need all these fixes of so-called life, and then you get entangled and enmeshed in it, and you think it's normal. You think that's how life is supposed to be. You're supposed to run around all day looking for food, looking for that next crack hit. You're supposed to run around all day looking for experience to dull your senses of reality. This is a sin-sorry experience. We are constantly sinning, which is missing the mark, which isn't your fault. That's just the experience we're in. Let's look at, I'm addicted to having clothes. I need clothes in order to feel good. I am rewarded when I put on clothes because it protects me from the environment, helps me feel better. I'm addicted to water. That rewards me so that I can keep going. I'm addicted to food because I need it to keep going. It rewards me and makes me feel better. And if I stop doing any of these things, I will start to withdraw, the same experience a drug addict goes through, but we call that withdrawal suffering. We will suffer, that's the withdrawal of ceasing our participation in this life. If we go outside the bounds of what this reality has given us, we start to withdraw. When we withdraw, we suffer more. It's a sick, twisted game. And like these little crackheads running around in the woods, that's what we're doing all day long. All day long. We're little crackheads trying to get our next fix of this or that. Anything that you go buy at the store. Basically, this whole life is playing off of your addiction to it. Your addiction to everything that you're participating in. When you stop participating in said event or thing or experience, you suffer, and that's the withdrawal period. Think of yourself as a little crackhead running around all day. Whatever you're doing, you're trying to fulfill some desire that's going to reward you, whether that may be good or bad for your actual body, doesn't matter. Taking vitamins is a addiction because you are used to it. I mean, even habits seem to be an addiction, because you have gotten used to the habit of doing this one thing that rewards you for keeping it going. It's this experience runs off of this addiction to life, which life here is not life. This is not life. This is some kind of drug addict realm that wants you to keep using and abusing everything around you so that you can feel good, so that it rewards you for participating in this effed up world, in this effed up realm. You could even say having relationships are a form of addiction, because you are receiving some kind of reward, stimulus, experience. And when you stop, when you don't have that relationship anymore, you go through a withdrawal period. You suffer. And the thing is, everything in this life is going to be ripped away from you, whether you go first or it goes first. And that withdrawal suffering that you're going to experience will tell you that it is some form of drug-induced thing, that you are dependent on things outside of you, which is a form of addiction. Addiction is attachment. So I guess you could say attachments mean addictions. Anything that you cannot give up, anything that you cannot let go, anything that is more important to you other than the truth, you're just like a drug addict, because you will do any and everything to keep that habit, to keep that thought, to keep that lifestyle, that action in play. And that is what this realm is depending on. This realm is depending on that you are so addicted, attached to yourself, your avatar, and its false desires and false needs. And that's how you get tricked, just like a drug addict. A drug addict can't see necessarily outside of its addiction behavior. It may have a underlying knowing, like, well, I'm doing something that is not good for me, but the reward is making me believe that I have no way out of it. So I'm going to keep taking the drug and keep destroying my life, relationships, and who I am as a person. Now flip that into this reality. That's what this reality is doing. The longer you are here, the more addicted to the attachments of this sensory experience you become. And perhaps if you never break that addiction or can see outside of that limiting awareness that is keeping you in that drugged up state, it might be impossible for you to break the habit called earthly life. Earthly life is an addiction of the highest order, and that everything involved is addicted to it. It has to play by its reward, punishment, dopamine system, looking and yearning for that next hit of whatever it may be. Experience, food, pleasure, pain, whatever it is, it's bringing you some kind of dopamine hit that is basically destroying your spirit, but it's feeding your false identity, that false drug addict identity. And the more you become addicted game players, and not realizing that it's all a trick. It's a trick to keep you dependent, on this life, on its ways, on its awareness, on its perceptions, and keeping you in that limited box so that when you leave here, if reincarnation is true, you are still an addict. You are still attached to all the limiting perceptions and awareness and all the things that you thought were actually you, which they weren't you. That was the addicted personality that was addicted to the experience of reward, of survival here, of playing the game here. The game here isn't real. What I mean by real is it's not reality. Just like the game the drug addicts play with in their own mind. They play these silly little games to justify this or that, or to get their next hit of life. When everyone who's outside of that limited addicted experience can see what it is and can tell you, you need to stop. You need to stop. But they can't force you to stop. You must stop yourself. You must come to that realization yourself. We are all addicted little drug addicts playing the game called life, and we are playing by its rules that keep us addicted to it. On every layer, it is entrapping your consciousness, who you actually are, and perverting it and making it dependent on this experience, on this world, on its ways, on its values, on its beliefs, on its limited perception of true, actual reality. And it's hard while we're in these drug-induced states to even fathom anything outside of the drug-induced state. But we can get glimpses when we start to realize that, wow, we're really addicted to this place. We're really, even though we say we hate it, we're not breaking the addiction with awareness that is placed upon the addiction and seeing how it is an addiction, how it is not beneficial for our spirit, for who we really are. And I'm not saying you can totally break the addiction while you're here. That's the thing. While you're here, you have to be engulfed in the addiction. But you can realize that it is an addiction, that it is something that is not beneficial for you, but you are still doing it because it's the nature here. Addiction can be anything that you cannot live without. You cannot live without. You cannot live without so many things they force upon you. This life is dangerous to you. This life is harming you. So if you need these things that are actually harming you, that is an addiction. And you can't say that this experience is not that. This experience is that. It is harm to you, yet you still participate. Yet you're still forced to take those substances, those things you stand under, because it is imposed in this realm, the realm of addiction. And you can see it and hear it everywhere. Even these little things are addicted to that sun. It needs its life-giving energy to function. I think there's a disconnect between, well, what's natural is okay, but what's unnatural, like things that destroy your body, that's not okay. But What about the things that destroy your soul, your spirit? That is what you need to be looking at. That is the addiction that is destroying your spirit. I don't think your spirit can be destroyed, but it's at least harming it, entrapping it in the drug-induced state. But if you want to look even at superficially level, okay, all the things that you buy, you're addicted to. Because you're forcing yourself harm by making money in order to buy those things. You are harming yourself by going to work and making that money. So going to work is an addiction because you are harming yourself in order to get something that rewards you, which is all the things they force upon you to have to need while you're here. I don't think you can look at anything and not call it an addiction, because addiction is needing something outside of yourself. And if you stop receiving that, you will be harmed. Or in the process, you are being harmed at the same time. Is me walking down this trail an addiction? I mean, well, I'm getting rewarded for being outside in this beautiful weather, but I have brought the necessary equipment in order to make this drug-induced experience more palatable. I have the right clothing on, and it's the right temperature, and it's not raining or too hot or too cold. So I am being rewarded. But how can you trust sensory experiences to dictate to you what is real and what is not, and what is good and what is bad, if you're being rewarded by things you have no control over? It's like a dog receiving a treat for doing something and doesn't know why. It just is. It's because I'm being rewarded because the environment isn't too extreme to threaten my survival in it. But as soon as it gets that way, as soon as I get thirsty, as soon as I get tired, my survival is being threatened. So the reward ceases, even though nothing really has changed. It's still the same environment. But how can I not be rewarded anymore by doing nothing other than walking? It's because the survival of the body is the actual addiction that puts all of this in play. If the survival of the body is threatened, you stop receiving rewards for doing whatever you're doing, and you'll receive a reward for doing what the body needs in order to keep going. How messed up is that? So you have no choice in how to feel anything, really, as if you don't bypass it. You have to bypass the addictive qualities of the body and of the reality, and realize that just because I'm feeling these things and experiencing these things doesn't mean that's me. That's the drug addict within me who is holding on to this life, who is holding on to these experiences. And I have to fall in line in order to make the drug-induced experience the most comfortable thing that I can. You start to realize that it's all based on the reward punishment of substances. You withdraw from the substance, you withdraw from taking care of the needs of the body, oh, you suffer. You withdraw from the experiences of this reality, oh, you're gonna suffer. It's only so long you sit in an empty room before you start to have major withdrawals and wanting to get out, experience something. Get that next hit of something. I mean, this could just be total nonsense, but this was just on my mind today, so I just thought I would talk about it. Hopefully it'll give you some insights. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it's good to... I see a spider up there. I was trying to look at it. It's good to get these thoughts out, and if you disagree, you disagree. This is just helping my thought process. And like that spider, the web of this reality is the web of life, as the Native Americans call it. Everything is interconnected, okay? In a way, that's true. Everything is interconnected by suffering and slavery, and keeping you in that web by getting you addicted to it all. Addicted to it all. This is the web that we're stuck in. This is the web of life that interconnects everything here. Everything is stuck in this silly game, this nightmarish game of slavery, suffering, and getting that next hit to keep our survival going, to keep those addictions going, that addiction called experience sensory life. Well, I guess I'm out. I ran out of steam there.